Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time to gather together. We're gathering a veteran force as we show you how to, everybody, talk about turning veterans into a powerful economic force. With the force himself, Mr. Christopher the Force Penton. Welcome, sir.
Hey, how you doing there, Mr. Paul?
You have been a force for change ever since you got out. Give us again, I'm going to keep asking you to do this each time, and then we'll bring in your guest. Give us again your background, because you have an impressive background, and that's what led to your passion and purpose for this show here.
Yeah, let me give you my background. My background is I had 6 Command Master Chief tours. That means I was a senior enlisted at the command that I was at. The USS Nimitz, 4,500 people. The USS Bellewood, 2,500 people.
Wow.
The USS Bunker Hill, 380 people. The region in Washington, D.C., 10,000 people.
Wow.
The Center for Career Development, where I went around the world to do training, 350,000 people. And then Navy Recruiting Command, I was the Force Master Chief. That's 10,000 with in charge of recruiting 40,000 people a year for 6 years.
And how long did you do this?
I did it for 30 years.
Wow. Then you got out.
And then I got out, and then my wife got sick. My wife got diagnosed with COPD, and I was her caregiver for 8 years, and she passed away 2 years ago. And then I came out to California because they wanted to do a movie about my life. And I came back out here, and guess who I got connected to again?
I think this other gentleman you were talking about, was it 40 years ago today that you got, or this month?
French. Tyrone French. Now, Tyrone French gave me my first order in the Navy. He told me to shut up and get in line. And he been telling me that ever since. 40 years ago, he was my RCPO. He was my recruit chief petty officer. And he told me, shut up and get in the line. And get in the back of the line, because, you know, in boot camp, you go by height.
Yeah.
So I always was the last one. I think it was one guy that was shorter than me, but they made him the guide on barrel, so they put him in the front. So I always, when it was time to line up, I always went all the way to the back, because I already know what my position was. And that was French order. The first thing he said to me is shut up and get in line.
Well, I'm going to shut up and get in line here in a second. Let me just set up Tyrone French, our guest here. He's another host on this network. Does an amazing show about, he's a wealth coach, and it's about how can ordinary people live extraordinary lives. How can you get real wealth for real ordinary folks here? And so he talks about that. One of the things that came out, he introduced us to you, was the plight of veterans who many times have big bonuses and all this stuff. They don't know what to do with the money. They're not financially literate. They're trained in combat. They're trained in administrative duties. They're trained in very technical skills, but they're not trained what to do when they get out. Is that the problem, French?
That's absolutely the problem. Hey, but the first thing I want to say is, Master Chief, thank you for allowing me to be on your show. And I can tell a lot of people out there, you go to watch a movie, and especially your best movies, there's a lot of embellishment in those movies. So when Penton says something about me telling him to shut, take that with a grain of salt. It adds to the story. But
and before you launch
again,
in,
I met this guy over 40 years ago. It was September 2nd, 1981, and we've been friends ever since. It doesn't mean we've been talking, every week, every month, every year. It's just that when we just have this thing where we click, we gel, and we're always on point based on the mission and being a service to other people. And when we put our heads together and say, hey, look, there's a problem with a lot of veterans coming out of the military, and they're just not equipped to handle this financial tsunami that hits them when they get out. And it's preventable. It's absolutely 100% preventable. So I'm glad to be part of this program. I'm glad to be that Penn invited me on his show today because we got a lot to talk about. And again, we want to just offer some common sense, everyday solutions to help these people and help these veterans to get to the point where, again, they're taking care of themselves and they're taking care of their
So
family.
what's the problem, Commander, Master Chief Petty Officer Force here? What's the problem? Summarize the problem.
The problem is we don't tell the sailors, we don't tell veterans how to assess their needs. We give them everything when they come into the military. We tell them what to wear every day. We even give them a paycheck twice a month. We do everything for them except tell them how to balance their checkbook, tell them how to invest. And I'm not talking about the junior sailor. I'm talking about chief petty officers. I'm talking about officers. I'm talking about
Senior
admirals.
enlisted. Yes.
I'm talking about, yeah, we just talking about veterans, and we're not even talking about in any particular branch of service, because for one thing,
Right.
it's not about the money. We don't teach them that because they mission in whatever armed forces, when they're in the armed forces, their mission is to put the missiles on target. All the other stuff is added stuff, but we need to get into the added stuff, right, French?
Right. The details, just being able, we learn in the military attention to detail. Well, your financial literacy is a major part of that. Things that you have to pay attention to, because if you don't, and you take your hand, it's like taking your hands off the steering wheel, driving at 100 miles an hour, and there's a turn coming up. I don't have to tell you. I mean, how that's going to end up. And so we do the same thing as far as, we come to the military. And again, I'm talking about I can only talk about my own experience. I came into the military. I didn't come from wealth, and I'm getting this steady paycheck, and I really didn't know what to do with it. So, as far as trying to make it grow, so I did the next thing that came natural. I spent it. And the more I got, the more I spent. And, that was just my way of life,
So what happens when you leave, though? You have no savings. We hear the most unbelievable stories of veterans coming out, well-trained, amazing force of human beings that suddenly fumbles and falters when they find themselves alone in the everyday world, because they don't know how to get a job, they don't know how to balance a checkbook, they don't know how to turn this technical skill they have into a outside skill. On and on and on, and they become homeless, they get into drugs, they wander, they're unemployed, they're underemployed, all this horrible stuff.
But what you got to realize is the majority of the veterans that get out the Navy get out in another part of the world that they didn't start off in.
Or even the military in general, not just the Navy, but
Yeah,
the military
yeah,
in general.
that's why I said the military. That's what, yeah, because they get out in a whole different. They probably wherever they went to boot camp, wherever they started off at 18 years old, they don't end up in that city when they get out the Navy. They probably, say you was born in Michigan, you probably gonna get out in California, or you probably get out overseas, and then you got to work your way back into your community, because you're not even associated with a community anymore.
So you come out and you're lost. Now, doesn't the military give you? You would think they'd give you tons of training. They don't.
Well, here's the thing, again, I don't want to paint this as a gloom and doom, and because there are a lot of veterans that get out of the military, and they're quite successful. We're talking about the ones that didn't have the necessary training and the safety net to fall back on. And again, just it's one of those things to where you have certain individuals, they never planned on getting out of the military, but because of other circumstances and the events popped up, all of a sudden they find themselves out of the military and they're not equipped to handle that situation.
So how do you guys equip them? This is the new program that you guys are trying to develop and put in place with other vets to try and pick up where the VA leaves off.
This way we equip them. They get right now. They get a paycheck twice a month. They get money twice a month. We trying to tell them to take that money and build wealth. That's what we.
Yes.
That's the purpose of us, is to take that you're in the best position of everybody. Even in the civilian world, somebody can come in and fire you on a civilian job. In the military, you got to get yourself fired by doing something silly. If you sign up for 4 years, guess what? You're gonna have a job for 4 years.
Yeah, really, I never thought about that.
That's twice a month you're getting paid. And we're tired of the veterans, we're tired of people in the military getting paid money and don't have wealth when they get out.
Talk about
And another thing, what we're doing is we're actually redefining what wealth is. Because a lot of people assume when we talk about wealth, we're talking about, somebody rich or somebody with a whole lot of possessions. Wealth is defined based on a number. Defined on time. And let me give you an example. Let's say if it costs you $4,000 a month to live,
Right.
and you have $4,000 in a savings account. Well, your wealth is at that point 1 month. However, imagine now it costs you $4,000 to live, and you have an income producing asset that's producing $4,000 every single month. Then your wealth at that point is infinite, and at that point you are retired.
So here's my
you
question.
can take a small amount. Again, the military is perfect for this example, because you can take a small amount as long as the income from that asset. It could be disability income, it could be Social Security, whatever it is. But as long as you get the income from that asset exceeds the outgo from your liabilities and expenses, then at that point you are wealthy.
So here's my question. I come out of the military. I've served. We're all grateful these days. Everybody says thank you for your service. Thank you too for your service. But we assume you're taken care of. You're going to get a pension. You're going to get medical benefits for the rest of your life. We've taken care of these two vets. And you're saying the vets can do more to take care of themselves rather than just rely on that pension and that.
Yeah. And the military doesn't take care of. Now, you have to do 20 years for them to take care of you for the rest of your life. That 20 years is considered retirement.
Okay.
So sailors that get out at 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, 16 years, or whatever, don't get taken care of unless they got some kind of disability to go along with them getting out.
Got it. Okay.
So
good point.
So the notion that all military people gonna get taken care of is not so. In some cases, you actually behind the power curve when you get out the military. If you just do 4 years or 8 years, it's because a lot of people don't understand what you have done in the military. Right. But what you have done is you have gotten up and went to work for four years. Say you was in the military for 4 years. You have went to work and been dependable for 4 years. That should translate into something in the civilian world.
But you ran an aircraft guidance system or a missile guidance system.
But you was at work every day, regardless of what you was running. So you could be trained to run something else, but you can't be trained to be at work.
Right, and so and what Penn is saying is that in order to plug into a lot of these different resources as a veteran, you almost have to be disabled, or there's other circumstances that you have to qualify for these things. Whereas if you served honorably, just like you could have gone into the military after 4 years, and you're used to using the resources on the base. And for one example is a commissary, which is like a supermarket.
Right.
And you're getting all of these really good prices, and a lot of times you're not paying tax on it. And so you're used to using this resource, and you served for 4 years, you did your job, you got an honorable discharge. Well, because you have a regular membership or a regular ID card, now you can't access the base because you didn't retire or you're not disabled. So now that resource goes away when you were dependent on it for the last 4 years.
So many vets come out and tell stories here. We've had one a while ago, opened a business, was on some business show, and admitted they'd been a veteran off camera. I said, what was it like when you get out? So it was horrible. I became bankrupt. I didn't know how to manage my bills. I didn't know how to pay rent. I didn't know how to apply for a job. I didn't know so many things. I was behind the curve. Now, she hadn't stayed in for 20 years. She stayed in for, 8 or something. And that's the group we're talking about here. They're not disabled. They're not necessarily qualifying for any benefits when they come out. And even those that they do, special programs to help vets start a business, do they know how to do all this stuff?
And then another thing is, I'm going to tell you the misinterpreted term is disability. I have a hat on right now that say disability veteran. In the military, disability don't mean you can't do anything. Disability means that part of your body is going to wear out a little bit sooner than your counterpart that didn't do time in the military, like your knees, for instance. Right. Say that you was on a ship and you bump your knees on a tire iron. I mean, not tire iron, but angle iron and all that kind of stuff. That means your knee is going to degrade faster than somebody's knee that haven't been in the military. That's what disability. Right. Disability means you can't even.
Right.
It doesn't mean. See, it's a stigma.
Or just like imagine that you worked on the flight line or
yeah.
the flight deck of America, and you know now you a certain percentage of your hearing is gone.
It's gone. Are you dragging around them chains for you're chalking chains, you dragging around them chains and your back may give out on you.
Exactly.
But people think disability means, let me drop a couple of quarters in your cup because you got disability. They need to change that terminology from disability to be something else. I come up with something, but it shouldn't be disability because the terminology is different.
So, and one of the things you both talked about is when you're in the military, it focuses on the mission. Putting missiles on target, getting the ship out, getting the force together, moving from here to there, accomplishing the mission. But they're not focused on, and what they do is remarkable. I got to say, they take people from all walks of life, all different education levels, and they turn them into a cohesive force. Perhaps the finest, most powerful
in the world
ever seen.
In the world.
And you would think then that with a little retraining, with a little reloading of the guns, with a little, as you said, equip them with something different other than a rifle and some technical training, these people could be turned into the most powerful economic force.
Because the foundation is there.
Yes.
And let me tell you a story. When I got out of the military, I was prepped to get a position at IBM.
Wow.
And I interviewed at IBM, but the thing is, I wore the wrong color suit, the wrong color shoes.
Didn't know how to do it. Yeah.
Didn't know how to do it. And so the first impression was like, wow, this guy came into an interview looking like he was going to a club. But when I sat down in that chair and I spoke with the recruiter was very impressed based on my knowledge, my background, my experience. And it was like, IBM would love it. You'd be a perfect fit. And we have this exam this entrance exam that we need you to take. And we'd like for you to come back tomorrow morning and take the exam. We have 2 exams. One of them is going to be this afternoon. Don't worry about that. We'll just bring you back tomorrow morning. Well, I was so confident. It was like, okay, well, I'll just take the afternoon exam. I'll just go to lunch and come back, take the exam. What I should have done in hindsight was give myself that time to whereas I could actually absorb this information and go in and take the exam, because even though I had the skill set based on avionics and electronics, there was a part of the exam based on relays and servos that it was just I hadn't brushed up on it.
Right.
And so when they got the test results back, I scored high. But there were other individuals that scored higher just based on those servos and those relays. And so it taught me a lesson. So I ended up going to a job fair a few weeks after that at McDonnell Douglas in Long Beach, California. And at that time, I knew how to dress. I knew how to present myself. A recruiter spotted me in the line out of thousands of people, asked me what I was there for. I told them I was quality assurance, gave them my background. They hired me on the spot.
There you go, because you knew the process. So, what do you guys hope to do? This is a new program you're trying to put together. I'm anxious to see how the government responds to it as you go out to your friends at these bases and other things. Are they eager? It's a black eye when vets come out and end up homeless or underemployed or, all the horrible things we hear because they don't know how to make that transition. I would think they'd be eager for somebody to come in and retrain these vets to re-enter society.
Right. Let me tell you who I really am. I can run anybody's company. I dealt with thousands and thousands of people in a war situation. So you think I could go in there and sell peanut butter to somebody?
Yeah.
It's and we build. Let me tell you what we really build. We don't build technicians in the military. We build strategic thinkers. And the world is not ready for a strategic thinker. They're ready for somebody, because when you're a strategic thinker, the boss is intimidated.
Could be.
No, it is. No, it is. I'm telling you right off the bat. I should be on the cover of Wheaties boxes on the stuff that I've done. If you can run a Bella group, because everybody got companies because some people like me volunteered to go out there and protect not the country, but the world. And you mean that's not worth anything when you come back? Oh, do you have a master's degree? A master's degree for what?
You were a Master Chief Petty Officer.
Yeah, what's a master's degree? From one of these prestigious universities? Yeah, I went to the University of U.S. Navy.
So here's my question then. And this, we keep going back and forth on this show. Is the problem with the vets who need to be trained, like Tyrone was talking about, how to go out and get a job and market their skills and do all that and manage their bills and everything else? Or is it the society in general that doesn't know what to do with these people?
It's awareness. Awareness of who we are and what we bring to the table. That's the way I defined it.
I like that. And also, just let me jump in here. We're partnering with a lot of different companies. I'm not going to give the store away right now, but we're partnering with various companies to whereas they have platforms to whereas we can take somebody from basic training, or we can take somebody that's a seasoned active duty senior enlisted or officer and plug them into a platform, a financial wellness platform, to whereas it's taking them through step by step. That's not only giving them the tools and the mindset, but it's also changing the behavior and adding the vocabulary. And over a period of time, financially, it's going to be a habitual thing. It's going to be it's a habit with them now, versus something of it being like an afterthought.
So when you talk about vocabulary, are we talking about basic literacy, how to read and write?
Financial literacy.
Financial literacy, right.
Exactly. I mean, understanding cash flow statements, understanding net worth, understanding debt to income ratios, understanding when you're talking about credit cards, looking at making sure that you're not overextending yourself as far as credit utilization.
How much have I got and how much am I using?
Exactly. And based on your credit rating and your credit score, just little terms that, in hindsight, didn't seem like they were very important, but they're absolutely important when it comes to your overall financial wellness.
And accumulating wealth, because my impression is that the military, since it went from being an all-volunteer force many years ago to a professional force that's paid, there's a lot of recruitment bonuses and re-signing bonuses. There's some cash available. Aren't they taking that cash and saving it for the future, or are they just blowing it?
Well, again, Penn, you can jump in here too, but I'm just giving you this based on my experience.
Right.
When I re-enlisted as an avionics technician, I got a cash bonus, and the first thing I did was I went and party in Japan, and I came back and bought me a brand new RX-7 sports car. And I remember when I left Guam, I had my car shipped to California, and I decided to drive to my to my electronics school in Millington, Tennessee. And on the way from California to Tennessee, I wanted to see what this sports car could do.
Of course.
And I saw this one stretch of highway. It was like I just highway for forever. And man, I put the pedal to the metal, and all of a sudden I passed this ravine, and I saw Smokey, and I just slowed down because I knew. And I saw him creep out of that ravine, and all of a sudden he put the lights on me. I got a ticket, and because I was only 21 years old at the time, my insurance rates went through the roof.
Wow.
So I had this car that I'm in Millington, Tennessee, this beautiful sports car, and I couldn't even afford to drive it. I would go outside, I would take the car cover off, I would start it, I'd wipe it down, listen to some music, put the car cover back, and walk back into the barracks.
So in retrospect, what are you trying to teach these young men and women then when they get that bonus? What would you say? Invest
it. Because I know we have rates in the military, like in the nuke field, that gets $50,000 re-enlistment bonus. Now, when you get a re-enlistment bonus, you get half of that right there. They get a check when they re-enlist for $25,000. $25,000. You still gonna get paid twice a month. You still gonna get paid twice a month.
And did they pay taxes on that?
If they get it over in a war zone, they don't even pay taxes. They don't get paid taxes on the money. No, they pay the taxes on the installment if they get it in a war zone. But
and again, once they get off active duty, and let's say again they have a certain rating of disability, that money is income tax free.
And let's
Yeah.
go one step further. So I'm 21, like French said, or maybe I'm 28 or 38 or whatever. I'm in my 30s, and I'm a more sophisticated nuclear tech, and I get this, whatever it is, I get this bonus, and it might even be tax free. I have no other bills. I don't have a rent. I don't have a house payment. I don't have meals. All the normal things I got to budget when I'm 21, 31. Somebody else is taking care of that. So you would think even more so they have the ability to invest this money. But
Right.
you're
So
saying
you just hit the nail on the head, because again, you got to think about the time value of money and that compounding effect.
Yeah.
So we're talking about taking young kids that are in their early 20s and taking a small amount of money that now they can invest, but by the time they start their second career,
They're
now we're
set.
talking about, and let's say by the time they get to their 60s, we're talking about they took a very small amount and now they're getting more money than people that started when they were in their late 50s, because they got to add more money to it or get a higher interest rate, a higher rate of return.
Right.
And it's crazy because, again, it's not being taught.
that's what I'm trying to wrap my head around. It's hard to believe because here's a force of people that are being trained to do impossible missions, but they're not thinking ahead, or nobody's getting them to think ahead of what to do for that next phase in their life here.
And Paul, but that's the opportunity. See,
Yeah.
again,
Huge.
this is not all gloom and doom.
No,
This is saying
huge.
that, hey, there's an opportunity here to provide solid solutions to whereas, and again, it's not gonna benefit everybody, because some people are just not gonna want to, they're not gonna want to participate. But we can set this thing up to whereas we can make the training
Right. Available.
mandatory.
Yeah.
To whereas now you're gonna get the training, whether or not you utilize it or not.
Exactly.
That's on you.
So
But
here's
we're
the
gonna
last
make
thing.
sure that you're equipped to whereas once you get out of the military, the only reason that you didn't make it and you didn't survive and you're not living the lifestyle that you want is because you didn't put forth the effort, not the fact that you didn't have the tools and the resources to make it happen.
No excuse. All right,
No excuse.
here's what I like, and then I'll throw it back to the force here, and then we got to wrap up. Right now, we think of veterans as a spent force when they come out. Thank you. You sacrificed your body. Maybe you sacrificed your life. We will take care of you through the VA. But we don't see you as having much more to contribute at that point in your life. Why, instead, can't we prepare this force to come out for an even greater economic impact? They changed the world when they were in the military. Why can't they come out and they became a military force? Why can't they come out and be an economic force and be ahead of the curve and not behind the curve, because they've been able to save more money through all these things?
And the way French and I are going to approach this is we want them to be a continuous force.
There you go. Right.
A continuous force.
Right.
You started as a force, we built up on that, and then we're going to build up on it again. So so we need to change it as a spent force to a continuous force.
Yes.
And also think about this. Think about the behavior that's being modeled by this veteran, by this person. They served on active duty. Now they're out of the military, and they're living that life.
Mm-hmm.
And now people see that, and they want to plug in. I mean, this would be perfect for recruiting. Now they want to plug in because they want the same success that this veteran had.
And this veteran has the money to buy a house. This money has credit, has cash, has accumulated.
And advantages for buying the house. But again, they set themselves up to whereas they can maximize these resources.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't understand why veterans aren't the most powerful economic force in this country. And I can only guess that because they're not being taught how to take advantage of what's there when it's there. And we don't know what to do with them when they come out.
And we're going to change that.
Yeah, we're going to change.
that
Yeah.
narrative.
I love it.
That's the plan.
That's this show. Tune in each
Well,
and every time.
Yeah, let me send out something. Because back in my hometown of Bogalusa, Louisiana,
Yeah, wherever that
they
is.
always tell me, well, you don't never talk about, you're doing some things down there too. So let me send a little shout out to Force Penn and Associate, and another organization is Blessed Be on Measure. That's with a youth center down in Bogalusa, and J Mac Management. And what we concentrate on is the community.
Yes.
See, that's what the veterans should do, go back to the community, be part of the community. We never left the community.
Yes.
So we
yes.
come back home, welcome us back home to the community so we
Yes.
can join hands and move forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
it's more than just having a parade. It's more than just thanking people for their service. It's preparing them to make an even greater economic impact when they leave the service.
Absolutely.
For themselves, their family, and their communities, and for all of us.
And I'm gonna do, French. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do what you taught. The first order you told me. I'm gonna shut up, and we're gonna get off the line.
All right. We'll leave it right there. Come back and join us again. We'll watch your progress here as you reassemble the veteran force into a powerful economic force. And that's what this show is all about, folks. If you know a veteran that wants to share their story, please have them get in touch with us. Good or bad, we want to hear what happens when you leave the military. And are you prepared to make that transition back into the society? And if you've got any ideas you want to share, join us, please. Orange County's only community radio station, octalkradio.net.